Welcome to Wind Down and Focus. We are Annette and Christina, photographers with over 15 years of experience in portraits, branding, and senior sessions. We're here to share everything we've learned along the way.
We focus on creating genuine, memorable moments through the lens and can't wait to bring you tips, stories, and behind the scenes from our photography journeys.
Each episode, we'll chat about photography tips, stories, and fun, all while sipping wine.
So grab a glass, sit back, and join us for some casual conversation, laughs, and photography goodness. Let's wind down and focus.
All right, guys. So welcome to episode 11. I am Annette.
And I am Christina. And today we are chatting with an incredibly talented photographer, Adam Goldberg of AGoldPhoto. He specializes in shelter pet photography, capturing adoptable animals in a way that helps them find their forever homes. So we're going to have a chat with him in a little bit. I think I'll kind of remind you guys back when we did our Shutterfest episode, I kind of touched on how I took his Shutterfest classes and I had taken his classes a few years back as well. And he's a great photographer. He's amazing with animals. And I'm excited for you to hear from him. So
What do we do? We drink our wine.
Yeah. Okay. So today I am still working us through the Trader Joe wines that I bought us. And I know we've done a lot of cabs. So I got us a Syrah.
Yes.
From Paso Robles, which is, if you remember, my favorite place.
Yes.
My favorite California place. So it is a 2022 Reserve Syrah, and it's lot number 209. And I actually Google what that meant because a lot of Trader Joe's Reserve wines have lot numbers. I think when we touched it last time, what we guessed what it meant, and we were pretty right. It was a California Syrah. It's priced at $9.99. And if you Google kind of reviews on it, one that pops up is sippedreviews.com. They had a whole section on just them reviewing Trader Joe wines in general. They rated it a 90 out of, I would assume 100.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, they didn't
I don't know what else.
On what scale. It just says 90. And they tasted it March of 24. So they tasted it over a year ago. And this is a 2022. So they tasted it a whole year younger than we're tasting it.
Okay.
So, I would assume it's only better for us, right?
Right.
So they were saying that the nose offers a red tart plum, a touch of prune, blackberry, red currant, honeysuckle, rhubarb, river water, and a hint of licorice. Did you get some river water?
No. So what is the nose offers? What does that mean?
When you smell it.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. I was like, wait, what?
When I smell wine.
Okay. Gotcha.
Smell wine.
Right.
How you smell? What are you smelling?
Dirt? No, I'm kidding.
River water.
River water. There we go.
See, I'm bad at the smell.
I am too. I don't smell
no
plum by any means or blackberry.
Get your nose up in there.
Maybe the river water is all I smell.
Yes, we're just going to go with that. So then they said that they thought the palate gives it a sweet and sour fruit, the touch of bitterness at first. I did get that. A little bit of bitterness.
I did too.
Medium body, high acidity, medium finish, medium concentration, and intensity. I agree. When I was pouring it, it looked a little thin. And so I had a feeling it was going to be that full bodied. And
I'm still making sure it doesn't taste like river water, but that just said smell.
Right. So at the end of the review, here's what they said. They said, all in all, a nice effort. It seems a bit on the light side with less body and fewer layers of flavors, but for $9.99, it's a great wine to open with garlic shrimp or baked chicken, and it won't overpower them.
All right.
Okay, I get that. I could see that. We tried it with what we had in our pantry, which was crackers and horseradish cheddar cheese.
Yes, which the cheese was super yummy.
So,
but we didn't notice a huge strong.
I felt the front end of it was stronger with the
that could have been the horseradish and the cheese. Exactly. So still we're not sure.
So yeah, that's what they say about it. So if you are a fan of Syrah and you want something a little bit more lighter bodied, then I think this
at a low price point.
Yeah.
That kind of has a smell of river water.
Right.
There you go.
According to the professionals. Then I Googled what are lot numbers for Trader Joe's. And here's what the Google told me. At Trader Joe's, lot numbers on wines, particularly with the Grand Reserve series, it identifies a specific winery that produced the wine. These lot numbers are consistent for a particular wine from a particular producer. Even if there are different vintages, this allows customers to track down wines that they enjoy by knowing the producer behind them, as Trader Joe's often omits the winery's name from the label. So basically, if you find a wine you love, you can easily find it again by noting down the lot number. And even if the vintage changes, the lot number will likely remain the same for that specific wine from that producer.
All right.
So, yeah. So if you're really into knowing, because if you just look on the back of this label, it just says it was, well, actually, this one says it was bottled by Familia Nueva Vineyards and Paso Robles. So this one actually kind of gave, but I do know what they're talking about, that the label doesn't always give you the information of the actual winery. That it just tells you, Trader Joe's in California. Yeah. So the lot number comes in handy with that. So keep that in mind, all you Trader Joe wine buyers out there.
Yeah. If you know what it is or have one by you.
That's right. All right. I'm excited for our interview with Adam.
So
and it's going to be coming up next.
All right. Here we go. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So to start us off, how about you tell us how you got into photography and what led you to focus on shelter pets?
Yeah. So in 2013, many years ago, 12 years ago, I worked at an animal shelter and didn't know anything about photography. Never picked up a professional camera with the exception of my dad's for like 5 minutes. And marketing was my skill set and my background. That's my strongest skill. So I was hired to do the marketing there. I picked up doing the website. The website was the thing that they needed done most. And then that took about 6 months to complete. And then the website was done. And what are you going to work on? The website looked great, but the photos look terrible. So they said, now that you have time, I feel like they thought this, but they didn't say this. You're young. You can, you can figure it out. And just started practicing on all the shelter animals and watched videos online, which at the time there wasn't much. There was,
right.
Do you know Seth Castile, the guy who does underwater dogs?
Yes.
He had a video series called One Photo Saves a Life. It was like 3 or 4 videos in a shelter, and kind of that was my jumping off point. It was a series of videos, and I had hundreds of dogs to practice on, and got really good at it in a short amount of time, and just revamped it and just fell in love with it. And in South Florida, where I was living at the time in Miami, pit bulls, which I'm very passionate about, there was a pit bull ban in Miami, so you couldn't own a pit bull in Miami legally. There was just it's called breed-specific legislation, which thankfully now in Miami you can own a pit bull, which is great.
That's great.
But we would get in tons of pit bulls. And I didn't know much about them other than what you might hear in the news, and it was all negative. But then I interacted with them, and they were amazing. Sweet, gentle, loving, wanted belly rubs. I was like, something's not right. Like, this doesn't add up to what I've heard about them versus what my interactions are. So I wanted to use photography to show people that pit bulls were not what they thought they were. So that marketing, it was just a hook, or a marketing hook. I called it the Pit Bull Picture Project. And it went viral. Different countries covered it. There's like articles in Italian that talked about it.
So cool.
It was in People magazine. So I just got hooked on taking photos of animals and having some sort of mission behind it. So did work at that shelter for 2 years. And then I left there because unfortunately at an animal shelter, you don't make a lot of money. My salary was very, very low. So I took a corporate marketing job in Tampa, where I live now, and didn't really love it. It was double my salary, but it just wasn't for me. So I said, I really want to go back to photographing animals. It was about 5 months of not doing it. So I started volunteering at the Humane Society here, and was never a business, never thought about, making money from it at all. And just slowly people saw those photos and said, hey, can you take photos of my dog too? And that's how it kind of blew up into a business back in 2016 is when I kind of really started focusing on it. And then 2017, I started doing it full time, pet photography.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I see majority of the time is 80% of the dogs there are pit bull.
I think that's
mixes.
across the board at most of the St. Louis
Yeah.
shelters. Like APA is pretty much all pit bulls.
Yeah.
But
And my foster tails have pit bull.
Yeah. And they're usually, they have the biggest smiles. Like there's I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but I posted a video of a dog. The caption was like, this is the best smile I've ever seen.
I saw that yesterday.
And it has like almost 2 million views on the video already. And I knew that video was going to go viral.
He's like doing a human smile.
Yeah.
It's a really cute smile.
And it was the test photo. Like I always do a test shot to get them used to the light. And that was the first photo we took, and it was like 10 seconds and got that photo.
Aw.
But anyway, I just love them. I don't have one myself, but my next one will be one when that happens.
Yeah.
And they just don't deserve their negative reputation. And if I can increase their positive reputation with a better photo and videos and stuff, just, why not do that?
That's perfect. I love it.
Why do you think good photography makes such a difference in pet adoption?
Good photography makes such a difference because a lot of people don't ever want to step foot in a shelter. The common that I hear people say is like, I can never go there, it's too sad. Or they'll say, if I go there, I'm adopting everybody. One of those two common phrases. So you have to get people's attention when they don't expect it. So people aren't necessarily, maybe they are, but most people may not be looking for a dog. And if you can attract them with a quality photo when they're not looking at it, it's just that's marketing 101. Like, they may not be looking for whatever widget you're trying to sell, but if you cross their page or their feed with the right message at the right time, you might be likely to, get them to buy whatever you're selling. In this case, we're trying to sell adoptions of pets. So the photos, if I can make them as compelling as possible to get people's attention, especially when you pair them with the before photo, the intake photo, people are like, wow, is that the same dog? It's like, the story I'm trying to tell is that you shouldn't judge this dog based on this crappy intake photo, because that's like the worst day of their life. So if you can picture them smiling and just like any other dog you want in your house, you might catch someone's attention, and that might save a dog's life, but then it might open a spot for another dog because that kennel is empty because someone adopted it.
Right.
So the picture, the picture makes all the difference.
I agree 1,000%. Yeah. It really does. One of the, now my viral is 2,000 views. So I'm not up to your standards yet. But I had a dog that had been in there for over I think I sent you the actual video of it on Facebook Messenger. Been in the shelter over 200 days. And so when we went there, it was my first time at the shelter after going to your class in Shutterfest. And beforehand, I was just taking like one good shot and being done with it. And then once I took your class and I realized like, take a little bit more time, get a good, like maybe 5 or 6 good ones. So I kind of told the girl that I work with, all these guys that have been here over 100 days, let's spend a little bit more time with them. And the one guy's been there, I think 288 days the day that I was there. He's a pit and he's got floppy ears, which you don't see all the time with the pits. He got a lot of views. And I was like, I've got Adam to thank for that in his class.
Well,
he's in foster now. He got promoted to foster. Great. So he's living a good life in a foster home.
I have a theory when it comes to like dogs that have been there over X amount of days. You ever bought a house and you look on Zillow and it says like this home's been on the market for 100 days versus a house that's been on the market for 3 days? You're like, well, why has this house been on the market for so long? What's wrong with it? Does it need more repairs or whatever? So depending on if those numbers are published or not, that's like a thing I want to test is like, does it make a difference if you outwardly post on social media like this dog's been at the shelter for 4 months? Does that help or hurt their chances? I'm not
right. Well, people think, well, what's wrong with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, it's just there's not like a clear answer that I can see as to why some dogs last longer than others. It could be that it needs to be in an only dog house, or they don't get along with children. There's a number of reasons, but did you publicize that the dog had been there that long?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. So and a lot of the comments I was getting on TikTok were people saying, like, feeling bad for him and trying to just leave comments to boost it for me.
Right. The other thing, too, is that I toy with is when I post about me, it does well. Like, hey, I'm the photographer and I do this kind of thing for shelter. That does pretty well. But when it's about the dog, it does even better. So, or if it's like 10 photos of 10 dogs, doesn't always do as well. But if it's one dog about something specific to that dog that's relatable or interesting or funny or surprising, where you can elicit an emotion out of someone, those are usually the ones that go viral. So that's how I knew that dog smile one would go viral. Yeah. So use that as in your back pocket to say like, how can I get more shares on this? The other thing I did, which is a little secret, I used ChatGPT to come up with the hook.
Me too.
So I said, okay. So I guess not a secret, but it's, I'll say like I have a beautiful photo of a smiling pit bull. I need a hook to get people to watch the whole video.
Yeah. Although I haven't used the prompt hook.
Maybe
I'll
used
try
amazing.
That I've used, I'll say social media post about, a happy pit bull with floppy ears that has been at the shelter for over 200 days.
Try hook, because the hook in marketing is like, how do you hook them in to want to watch the whole thing. Because if it's like, this is the best smile I've ever seen, of course you're going to watch the end. You're going to watch it because you want to see what the smile is.
That's awesome.
I like that.
So next question for you. Explain to us, if you were becoming a pet photographer, why you think starting with the shelters and stuff is so beneficial to enter into the pet photography field.
Yeah. I don't know if it is beneficial. Can I challenge you on that?
Please.
So I started because I loved photographing shelter animals, not because I wanted to start a business of it. A lot of people will see what I'm doing. They see that I'm, getting sponsors, that sort of thing. And they say, oh, I can make money from photographing shelter animals, or I can get clients from photographing shelter animals. And it's usually that's not the trade-off. There's a trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to learn dog behavior, if you want to get practice with photographing animals, by all means, please go to the shelter and do it if you never make a penny from it, and do it if you never get your photo shared on social media and if you never go viral. But if you're doing it because you want to get adopted families as clients, or if you're doing it because you want to make money from sponsors, that's the wrong reason. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Are you doing this because you see it as a way to make money? Then to me, this is the wrong reason. If you're doing it because you really want to help and you love changing someone's life, because you save the dog's life, but then you save the person who's adopting them is going to change their life too, right? Dog's going to make a big impact on their life. So those are the two paths I see people go down. It's like, I'm doing this just because I want the money, or I'm doing portraits, I'm doing weddings, but I don't love it. Maybe I can build a pet portfolio and make some money from pets. Usually it's the wrong reason and you're not going to stick with it. But if you're doing it because you love it, which is obviously my case, and you never make a dollar from it, but if you do it the way I'm doing it, the money will come eventually. If you're doing it because you want to make money from it, it's like you're going to be upset if you don't make any money. And you're like, I can't do this. I'm not making any money.
Right.
For me, I don't care if the money. Yeah, I don't care if the money comes. So that's why I'll just do it till I die.
I know my first year of photographing pets, I maybe made on the books couple $100, because all I was really doing was just getting my time at the shelters to for what you said. I wanted to learn the psychology of the dog and get myself around as many different kinds of dogs as I possibly could. And then it just feels good to help them out. And I was like, it's just a labor of love right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you're okay with that, or if you're like, okay, if I'm not making money in 6 months, then I need to stop, or, whatever rule you want to set for yourself. But if you go into it expecting money, you might be upset. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Gotta do what you love.
That's right.
Okay, so shelter pets can be shy, timid, and scared. What are some tips that you can share on how to get them to open up for the camera?
So shelter pets can be timid and scared. I would say maybe 20% fall into that category. We photograph 10 a week. Maybe 2 or 3 of them are like that. The rest are so excited to get out of their kennel and just want attention and love and belly rubs and treats, and they're usually very amenable to photographs. So I think the stigma is that the majority of them are timid, or there's something wrong with them, or it's my kind of soapbox is there's nothing wrong with these shelter animals. Mostly it's just that someone couldn't care for them anymore, didn't have the resources to care for them, or they got out as a stray or something. And a lot of people will go to a breeder, or maybe a backyard breeder, if they're not, educated on what a backyard breeder is, which I can go into if you want.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Craigslist is popular for acquiring a dog anymore, but many years ago, people would post their dogs on Craigslist if there was like a accidental litter, or they were trying to breed their dog with someone else's dog to make money. And it was just in their backyard. They're not a professional breeder. They're not doing vet checks. They're not making sure that the dogs that they are breeding are meant to be bred together from a health standpoint. There's a lot of aspects to what's called reputable breeding. And usually reputable breeders don't have to advertise. So if you see like Frenchie puppies signs on the side of the road with a phone number, that's usually a backyard breeder. Because they're just trying to make a buck. And usually those dogs have a ton of health issues. When it comes to reputable breeders, I don't have much experience with them, but usually they have been doing it for a long time. They know what they're doing. The dogs are well cared for. They're not dumping dogs that don't look like if the dog is sick, they're going to just dump it on the street usually. A backyard breeder versus a reputable breeder, take a lot of lengths to make sure they're doing it the right way. So there's the backyard breeder and the reputable breeder. But a lot of people assume that these dogs are broken, and then they will go to a breeder because they don't want to have to deal with a broken dog. But those dogs are like $2,000 and $3,000 usually. A shelter animal, shelter dog is like, depending on, like, I don't know, $200, $300. Maybe a rescue might be a little bit more.
Right. Well, they got to cover their neuter and all that stuff. So
yeah, rescues especially, but shelters usually like lose money on each dog with all the resources they put into it. So my goal is to show people that these dogs are not broken or damaged or not good, and you don't have to go to a breeder. If you're a little patient, you might find that golden retriever at a shelter. You just have to set the alerts and maybe wait in line a little early.
Do go fast.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a Goberian, and he was bought from a breeder, but the people didn't realize how big he was going to get. So at 7 months, they gave him to a rescue, and that's how I got him. And he's the sweetest.
Yeah. Oh, he's such a
sweet, fluffy dog.
He is big.
But because they didn't realize, they just saw this cute little puppy, and
cute little white
that puppy. That puppy got big.
Right.
So
for sure.
I find
that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, the rescue that I work with, they will get cute little, like have you noticed the small dogs seem to go faster than the bigger dogs?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Everybody wants a
they get a lot of small dogs that seem to go fairly quickly.
We don't
I think that
photograph
has to do
those
with
either.
potty training, right? Possibly, like, people are like, "Oh, I can't get the dog potty trained."
Could be,
but they're not knowledgeable on how to do it, so they give up too soon. They're like, "Well, I can't do this, so bye-bye."
That's interesting. I don't know. I've never thought about it. We don't spend time photographing the small dogs because they do go so fast. It's usually, the seniors, pit bulls, black dogs, usually who we end up photographing the most. Yeah.
With your editing and shooting style, does it differentiate for you at all between being in a shelter setting and then versus someone coming to your studio?
It depends. So we offer gray, like a dark gray backdrop, which used to be all we offered. And then we have a white backdrop. So we have two different styles depending on the backdrop they choose. We don't use color. A lot of I think new photographers tend to love the pops of color, like yellows and blues and stuff like that. I'm colorblind. So when there's a color cast on the dog from the backdrop paper, I can't see it. And people can like, why is that blue on there? And I'm like, I didn't even notice it. So we stay away from color. When we use white, I have a specific style where it's a little, what's known as high key, where it's just like a flat white backdrop. I try to keep it as evenly lit as possible. When we use on gray, that's a little more dramatic, a little bit of a darker color. So the shooting style there is I try and make it a little more dramatic, and I use a different modifier, a smaller modifier, to create more of a natural vignette on the photos. On the white, I don't want the vignette at all. I want it to be nice and even. So I guess you could say I have two styles. But I really try, if there's a Venn diagram of the gray and the white, what's in the middle is having the focus be either on the dog as much as possible or the relationship between the dog and their owner. A lot of people think that we're like JCPenney. You guys might face this too, but like props and outfits and, bubbles. And like, I try and stay away from all that stuff just because I want to focus as much as I can on the dog or the relationship between the owner and the dog.
And I know in one of the classes I took, somebody asked you if you touch up the shelter dogs, if they're like, have scars or something, and you said absolutely not because you want them.
Right. Yeah, we don't edit the dog's features. Like, I'll make their eyes like pop a little bit, but like if they have a scar, I'm definitely leaving that in. Or if they because you don't want to, I think the joke I probably always make is you don't want to catfish someone. You don't want them to drive to the shelter and then be like, wait a minute, what's the scar doing here?
Right. Right.
It's just, it seems obvious to me, but some like drawing a line of being ethical and and it's more work. Why would I don't want to have more work to do.
No, that makes sense. 100%. Do you have any tips for capturing adoptable pets in less than ideal lighting?
To add on to that, if you're a pet photographer that's helping at a shelter and you're given like the worst room or the worst like area to do your best work.
I have a few things I can say on this. One is if you're getting started, which is how I started, was LED lights. LED lights are, pretty inexpensive these days. And it's like what you see is what you get. You don't have to worry about the flash or the strobe affecting the dog, your life would be a lot easier, potentially, because you have one less thing to worry about. The light's just on. So if you're just starting out, that might be a good place to start. You have to have the lights a lot closer, depending on if you're just starting, you're not buying the high-end LED lights that are super duper bright. So the lights are going to have to be pretty close. But when I used LED lights for 5 years, I think. And then I graduated to strobe lights because they're a lot more powerful. The photos turn out a lot better. That would be my tip for that. A lot of shelters don't have the great space. So you have to do the best you can with what you got. We used to set up in the shelter store. They had a small retail store that we would move stuff around and do it before they opened. We've done it in thrift shops. We just move stuff around. You could really get by with, 3 feet by 5 feet, maybe, if you had to. The room we have now is 12 feet by 15 feet.
Oh, that's nice.
I use this giant umbrella, this 7-foot umbrella, and people are like, I don't have the space for that. Well, you just get the biggest, my response to that is get the biggest modifier you can get for the space you have and that you can afford. Because the bigger the light source, the more leeway you have if a dog doesn't sit still to the left or to the right. If you have a smaller modifier, if they're to the left a little bit, the light's not going to hit them properly, and they're going to be half lit,
Yep.
So that would be my advice. Do the best you can, but
just to kind of tack onto that, because this made me think of it. What is your go-to lens that you like to use when you're doing the animals? Do you like the wide?
No. I used to use. I started out with a 50 millimeter way back when, because it's cheap, like a 1.8. I think it's $50. Maybe $100.
50. I think everybody started with that.
Yeah. So, and then they make ones that are $2,000 that are 1.2. And for what you're doing with shelter work, you don't need such a low aperture like that. You really want to be at f8 or f9 to get the whole face in focus. 50-50, the cheapest lens you can get. As you start making money, and you're making money from either shelter photography, which is not easy to do, or private clients, a little more attainable, start investing in equipment. I would invest in a lens before the camera body. What I use is a 24-70 2.8. It's a L series. It's it's so great. It focuses quickly, which is what you need, and doesn't make any sounds when it focuses. I was talking to somebody.
We're both Canon like you, and that's our go-to.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Someone was saying that they had an older camera, and that the focusing affected the dog, the supersonic or the whatever, some sound was affecting the dog. And I said, you how old is your camera? So my focusing is super fast. It doesn't make any noise. So.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I could see that causing a little.
Because dog, as no secret that they can hear really well. So, especially what's crazy is hound dogs. If you ever photographed a hound, they're usually the ones that are scared of the lights the most.
Really?
They're hunting dogs, and they're always alert. They're always aware of their surroundings. Some dogs are I don't care what is happening around me, as long as I'm getting that treat, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Hound dogs, I feel like I could do a whole podcast about each breed and what their tendencies are.
Oh, that would be a good one. Yeah.
But anyway, so hound dogs, they're very aware, and usually those are the ones that are scared of the lights.
I'll have to keep that in mind. I have not got my hands on the hound.
Lacey, they're getting ready to get a puppy.
Yeah, that's right.
They're getting a puppy too. So
yeah, that's true.
You can do that.
So the photographers who want to help with the shelters, what's your advice to them to reaching out? And I know we kind of touched this on your shelter class at Shutterfest, that it can be hard to get a hold of them.
Yeah. So some of it will depend on the photos, or if someone's helping them already. As I inspire more people, I've inspired a lot of people so far. If the shelter, you got to look at their website. If they have good photos already, may not be a good place to start. If they have outdoor photos, let's say they have someone going and doing outdoor photos and they're somewhat good quality, your pitch to that, I'll tell you what my pitch is to a shelter in a second, but your pitch might include, hey, I see you have quality outdoor photos. I actually am a studio photographer. I don't need that much space. I'd love to help as well. And, compliment the photos. A lot of photographers make the mistake of saying, hey, I'm John and I can do photos. You look like you really could use my help. bashing the
A
photos.
backhanded comment kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that. And you never know who you're my standard kind of line here is you never know who you're emailing. Like, what if you emailed the person that took those photos and you offend them? You know, so you never know. But if you can keep your pitch short and sweet and say what you're going to do for them, not what you expect of them. So I had someone come up with this huge scheme. I call it a scheme, but a huge plan. I think they meant well, but they emailed 5 different shelters, and they wanted the shelters to compete by posting about the opportunity for this photographer to work with them. And whoever got the most likes, she would work with. And I was like, this is way too complicated. It's very self-serving. Just offer your services to the shelter and say, hi, I'm Christina. I have a passion for pet photography. Here's some of my work. I would love to take some adoptable photos. I can come every month with frequency. You know, I could come frequently and I'd love to help. Here's the space that I would need. I ask very little, something like that. And they're more likely to respond. A lot of people will message them through Facebook. And usually the person that manages the Facebook, it could be a volunteer, but it could be like the marketing person. Or you really need to reach out to the volunteer coordinator instead. Because usually those two people have very different roles. And people that work at a shelter are usually very busy. So people are like, I reached out to them. I never heard anything through Facebook. I said, well, did you call and ask to speak to the volunteer person? No. Did you, look on their website to see who the volunteer coordinator was and email them specifically? One thing I would not recommend is just showing up. Like, don't just show up with your camera and say, or
and
just show up in general. Well, yeah, that of course. But don't just show up and say, hey, is the volunteer coordinator here? Can I speak with them? If they haven't responded, or even if you haven't outreached yet, they're just very busy and usually aren't open to like impromptu meetings. So I would always start with a friendly email, have ChatGPT write it if you're not a good writer, but don't make it short and sweet, and pick the shelter that has the worst photos in your area, and don't call it out because they probably know.
Right.
And if the photos are bad, they're more likely to want to work with you.
Well, and at the end of the day, there's so many shelters out there, and they all need as much help as they can get too. So there's plenty of places.
Yeah, or even let's say you're in a town with one shelter and someone's already working with them. There's countless rescues. If you really want to make it work, you'll find a way. If you're looking for excuses, you'll find excuses. But if you're passionate about it and you want to make it work, then you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yep, I agree. Well, tell us a little bit about the greeting cards you have been working on recently.
Yeah, so I watched an episode of Shark Tank, which I often do, and there was a greeting card company on there, and I was like, it was a greeting card company geared towards the Spanish community with not necessarily cards that were like happy birthday, but translated into Spanish. It was like more colloquial things that would really appeal to that community. And I was like, that is so smart. And it was illustrations that he did. And he got a deal, and I followed him on Instagram, and I was just basically watching everything he did. And I was like, I could do that. So we launched a greeting card company on Etsy with our best photos, some of our most viral photos, not all shelter animals, some shelter animals. And we launched it, and it did pretty well. It's hard. Launching a product is really hard. You have to constantly promote it. So if I don't promote it, just being honest, we don't get sales.
Right.
But if I do promote it, we'll get a handful of sales. It's just another way to add revenue to help support the adoption photos. If you search like AGoldPhoto greeting cards is the name of the store. AGoldPhoto greeting cards on Etsy, you'll find it. It's fun to see people's reactions and the reviews, I think, because people don't know what they're getting, and they get this like beautiful card and a gold envelope, and it's nice to do that for people. And then when I use their dog and text them, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so fun to see their dog on a greeting card."
My dog's famous. Cool. Yeah. Everybody wants their dog famous.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that.
We have a couple more questions for you. Can you share your favorite adoption story that you can think of off the top of your head that's kind of stuck through you through doing all of this the last handful of years?
Yeah, the most recent one, I have a few, but before this most recent one, I had one that I always had to go to, but now I have a new one. There was a dog named Boss who his video also, it was Pitbull. Pitbulls tend to do really well on social media. There's a lot of advocates for pit bulls, so they're willing to share that type of stuff. So there was a dog that was surrendered to the shelter who his owner's landlord no longer allowed him for some reason, or that was the story. And we posted about that, and people were like, how could you? I would move before I gave up my dog. So there's like a reason for people to respond. I think that's why people went viral. So that video got millions of views too. And then I saw a woman in Tampa lost her second dog, and they saw this video on TikTok, went to the shelter. She posted on the post that like how she went to the shelter to go get it, and she adopted this dog. And I saw it play out on social media. It was like, incredible. And then he developed some sort of urinary tract infection or something.
Oh.
She messaged me because I kept in contact with her after finding out she adopted him, and just to create updates because so many people were invested in him. And he needed this like really expensive surgery. So I did a GoFundMe on my page and raised the money to get him the surgery. And there was a surplus, so she gave money back to us to fund adoption photos from the surplus of the surgery. So not only did I help get this dog adopted, but I also helped fund this dog's surgery. And now he's living his best life. I follow them on social media, and it was awesome to be able to help
That's really
twice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that
See,
was boss.
makes it all worth it, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure. And people were so invested in him that it was easy to raise the money. And then, yeah, it was great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I love hearing that. That's awesome. Anything else you'd like to share with us
before we wrap up?
Okay. So right before this podcast started, you got an article published in Forbes for one of our fun projects that we did. So
That's cool.
Yeah, and this is the second time I created a relationship with a journalist that writes for them, and she does dog stories only. So we did a project with a local senior center. I don't know if you happen to see this.
I did see some of those posted. Yeah.
Yeah, so we brought adoptable dogs to a senior living center to give the dogs enrichment, but also give the senior residents their enrichment as well, because it could be lonely, etc. So we took photos of them to kind of show that these dogs are, great with people. They're good around other dogs. It was just a win-win for everybody. And then the project is featured in Forbes as of today, as of this recording. So I'm excited to see.
We'll find the link to it, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. Hopefully more shelters do that, because I think a few of the dogs got adopted from it, and it was just enriching for everybody. So hopefully that inspires more people, and hopefully it leads more opportunities for us to partner on with cool projects like that too.
I think you having that marketing brain really helps you come up with these cool things, because sometimes it's hard. I know for me, I have a graphic design background, so I kind of was in the advertising world before photography, but not on the marketing end necessarily. And the people I worked with in marketing are always the marketing brain is always on, always thinking about what's next and how can we make this
Yeah. And I also I have my first meeting tonight, but I started a group marketing coaching for pet photography. So, we had people sign up in advance, and it's like a mastermind.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, if it goes well, I'll probably do it again. But I had 5 photographers sign up. But my lesson to them will be, marketing's hard. You got to find the time to do it. You got to be creative. But look outside the pet photography world. Look at what other companies are doing for their marketing. Look at the last thing you bought. Why did you buy that? What attracted you to that? Look at McDonald's. Let's say the McRib. Are you guys familiar with McDonald's and McRib?
Who isn't?
Yeah. So they don't offer it all year round. They make it a big deal, and they do a lot of not that you're going to, buy commercials for yourself necessarily, but look at what bigger companies are doing and try and get some ideas. ChatGPT is amazing for ideating. It's incredible. So there's really, there's excuses for everything, I tell people. And you just have to find the time. So if you're, instead of watching Netflix for 2 hours, could you spend that 2 hours marketing or learning how to market or absorbing marketing? I will sit on Instagram for 3 hours sometimes and just see what's doing well and why it's doing well, and think of how can I adapt this to what I'm doing, whether it's in the pet photography McRib space. How can I adapt this to what I'm doing? So I'm always like a student of marketing to see what could work. And it's a muscle. So once you start doing that, you'll get better at it. It's not like I was born with all this marketing knowledge. I kind of had to work at it. But anyway, that's another
awesome.
Soapbox for marketing.
No, I like it. We like it. So lastly, before we let you go, where can people see your work and follow along with what you're doing? And if they live in your area, especially, sign up to have their own studio session.
Yeah. So we post a lot on Instagram. Our Instagram is AGoldPhoto, all one word. If you're a photographer and you're looking for some sort of education, we have a course all about pet photography for, your pet photography 101, basically. And then we also have a studio shelter pet photography course that we just created a price. It's only $27 for that studio pet photography course. We try to make it pretty affordable. It's 4 hours packed with content. So there's courses you can sign up for. I have a Facebook group called Studio Pet Photography Help. There's about 7,000 photographers in there from all over the world. It's really active. People ask questions. It's incredible.
Yes, I'm in that
answer
one.
questions as well. Yeah, a lot of people help. I can't get to every post, and it's really great to see all the positivity in there. And then if you're in Tampa, of course, we are taking private clients. We have a special coming up in July. If you have a senior dog 8 years and older, $100 off. So we're testing that as a marketing thing to see how well that resonates, because a lot of our clients tend to be senior dogs. So we thought, let's lean into that as a test. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's how you can find me. And if you have any questions, you could always reach out on Instagram too.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us, Adam.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Wind Down and Focus. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode full of photography tips, stories, and of course, some laughs.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and remember, whether you're behind the lens or in front of it, keep having fun and capturing those unforgettable moments.
Catch you next time as we sit, chat, and focus on what makes photography awesome.
Before we go, can you do us a small favor? Go online right now and share this episode with one friend who you think will love it. And while you're at it, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps us reach more photographers like you. Also, don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got a free guide waiting for you when you subscribe. It's called 5 Ways to Get More Photography Clients, and it's packed with actionable tips to help you grow your business. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time on Wind Down and Focus.